everybody, Merry Christmas, welcome back to Typical City. Loads to get through today. We've got transfer news to go through. I've got a graphic to show you which showcases the age of these current Manchester City players. A very simple graphic, but it's just to illustrate to you the problems with regards to the rebuild that Manchester City face and the number of players that next season will be over 30 years old. It's incredibly concerning, and I'm also going to go into a little bit of the Everton preview with my team selection or my predicted starting 11 for both sides, so stick around for that as well. But let's start with the transfer news. Mohammed Kudus from West Ham. What a player he is, but is he the player we need? I'm not sure he is. Certainly not right now. Long term, yes, I would think if we are to sign this player in January, then I think we've got one less job to do in summer, because I do think we need a bit more attacking power, physical power. You know what I'm talking about? That pace and power. When you think of Manchester City, when you think of the word power, how many players spring to mind for you? Haaland? Yeah. Doku? Yeah. After that, anyone else spring to mind in terms of attacking, physical presence, power, a physicality? You know, and I would argue we do not need this player right now. Right now, if you isolate the season as a single season and what we need for this season, Mohammed Kudus is not the guy we need right now. We need someone in the middle of the park. It's so clear as day for most Manchester City fans that Kudus is not the man we need right now. We actually have kind of a luxury in terms of wingers. And the players that can play in that position, they're not out-and-out wingers. I still don't believe Jack Grealish is a winger, but he plays there no matter what. You know, Jack Grealish, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, Oscar Bob, Jeremy Doku, Savini. I've just named 6 players. We do not need a 7th right now. We do not need a 7th, you know. It's crazy to think Mohammed Kudus coming in when we have absolutely nobody in the middle of the park. That's crazy to me. You know, I'm hoping these links are, if they're true, then great, because he's a fantastic player. That obviously means the likes of Jack Grealish or potentially Bernardo Silva, who's on their way out of the football club, with if you believe the rumours, and it's very likely to happen as well, in particular Bernardo Silva, then yeah, there's a future job that's been ticked. We've done that job in the future. We don't have to do that in summer. That's great. But right now, needs must in the middle of Manchester City's midfield. But the numbers that are being circulated, he's got an 85 million release clause, which, again, if we trigger that, away we go. Go and get Mohammed Kudus for 85 million. I would argue that's overpaying. In truth, I think that's a little bit too much for a player like that. I think he's good. He's shown this season he's not quite as good as he was last season. If you look at the numbers, with 14 appearances, 3 goals and 2 assists, 5 goal involvements in 14 appearances so far this season for Mohammed Kudus. Whereas last season, 48 appearances, 18 goals and 7 assists. 25 goal involvements in 48 games, almost a goal involvement every other game. So last season, absolutely fantastic. But he does have the word power. I think it's exciting in that regard. And I want to go back to the midfield power, though. Yaya Toure, that spine, that Ivorian spine that we had, the African spine of Yaya Toure and Kolo Toure. Absolutely sensational. I loved the marauding. He was like a steam train, Yaya Toure. There's no one could live with him. You couldn't cope with Yaya Toure. You know, you could put 2 Ilkay Gundoğans in the middle of that pitch and a sprinkler Kovacic in there as well. They will not match the physical prowess of a Yaya Toure. You know, you think about power on the wings. Yeah, you've got Jeremy Doku, who, by the way, is Ghanaian in descent. He's Belgian on his passport, but he's Ghanaian in descent. He's got that African Ghanaian power, same as Mohammed Kudus. That same Ghanaian power that's exciting. And this is the thing. Pep tends to go for more technical players. I do think we need to sprinkle in more power into this side. And Mohammed Kudus is definitely going to do that, but in an area of the pitch that I'm not that happy with. I don't think we need power there now. Right now, we do not need that power in that particular area of the pitch. So a strange one for Manchester City to be linked with Mohammed Kudus at this stage of the season. It seems odd to me. With also reports are suggesting that it could be 65 million, with a McAtee being included in the deal to sweeten the deal for West Ham, so they get a James McAtee. And going into the deal, it might make more sense because McAtee isn't getting no game time right now in this Manchester City side. Another player that Manchester City have been linked with is JaMar Baraz, an 18-year-old Sierra Leone, another African player that Manchester City have been linked with, an 18-year-old centre-back currently playing at Real Valladolid. On loan from AIK Freetong, a Sierra Leone side who's gone on loan there. The plan was for him to go into the B team of Real Valladolid, but apparently he's done so well there, he's just thrown him straight into the starting 11. So the reports are suggesting that Manchester City could get this deal done in January and loan him straight back to Real Valladolid. He looks a fantastic prospect, very limited football to actually go off in terms of gauging where this player could go. He looks big, mate. He looks big, powerful, and surprisingly good with the ball at his feet for a player of such size. You know, it looks exciting as a prospect, but an 18-year-old, it's hard to gauge where they're going to go, but it looks like a fantastic player, a very, very promising player, and I think I would argue this is a player that we probably do need in terms of, like, he could be thrown into a starting 11, but he's not going to be playing this season, the reports suggest. He's going to go back on loan to Real Valladolid, so a strange one again to get business done for the future, whereas it seems like with these players being linked that we're almost writing off this season and just looking to the future now and hoping the players that we currently have in this Manchester City squad are going to get us into the top four and get Champions League football for next season and onwards. But I'm not sure this is going to work with the current crop of players. We definitely need someone in the middle of the park. There has to be a signing for Manchester City in the midfield, with Sam Lee coming out saying that Martin Zubimendi is a no-go, Bruno Guimaraes is a no-go. And there was another journalist, I can't remember his name now, I think it was a Spaniard, who was talking on Twitter, who said Ederson is a no-go, from Atalanta is a no-go. So the three best players that I think City have been linked with for that particular role in the middle of the park are a no-go. So yeah, disappointing, but this is what you expect. It's January. Big clubs, Atalanta, currently top of Serie A, they're looking at winning the Serie A title. Why are they going to get rid of their central midfielder in the middle of a season? Bruno Guimaraes, they're Newcastle fighting on the front to try and get top four football, at least, very unlikely. But they're not going to want to get rid of a player like that. You know, Martin Zubimendi has showcased his loyalty towards his boyhood club in Real Sociedad. He's already rejected Liverpool in the summer, so for him to come to Manchester in the middle of January, I'm not sure that deal's going to happen either. But we have to wait and see with regards to what is actually going to happen. But have a look at this. This is the graphic I wanted to show you. Now, this is the ages of the current Manchester City players. 12 players hitting over 30 next season. So these 12, first of all. So you've got a starting 11 here of over 30-year-olds that Manchester City could field next season. Clearly, some of these players have to go. You've got Scott Carson, 84 years old, Gundogan, 35, Walker, 35, De Bruyne, 34, Ortega, 33, Ederson, 32, Kovacic, 31, Stones, 31, Bernardo Silva, 31, Ake, 30, Grealish, 30, Akanji, 30, and if you want to make things even worse, Rodri, he's 29, so he'll be 30, maybe going in towards the season after, or not maybe, of course he will, time is a chronological thing, it's definitely going to be 30, I don't know why there was a maybe in there, he's definitely going to be 30, you know, he will be at some point, so, yeah, concerning to see this amount of players. You could field a starting 11 with those players. You'd have to stick Ederson up front probably to actually make it work. But in terms of the number of players that are over 30, 4 or maybe even 5 of those need to be gone before the start of next season. We cannot be looking at this squad and saying, yeah, we're depending on too many of these players next season. Obviously, the 30-year-olds, I would be looking at Nathan Ake, potentially Grealish, Akanji, and that's about it. Kovacic and John Stones, again, potentially, and call them the experienced heads next season. With regards to 35-year-olds next season, I'd include Kevin De Bruyne as a 34-year-old. There's no dependency there. We can't rely on these guys, not in terms of ability, in terms of availability. We can't rely on them. They're always injured, you know? It's so concerning. But anyway, let's have a look at the predicted starting 11 for Everton and Manchester City going into this game. The supercomputer, by the way, if you're wondering, has predicted, because they predicted, 43% chance Manchester City were going to beat Aston Villa. Couldn't have got that one more wrong. This time the supercomputer has predicted 73.7% chance of a Manchester City win. 73%. This supercomputer knows nothing, mate. It knows nothing. But it does give Manchester City a 0.6% chance of winning the Premier League. So maybe it's not too stupid, because clearly there's absolutely no chance. Well, 0.6. So there we go. Everton have won 1 in 19 Premier League away games so far this season. So, yeah, not great on the road. Sean Dyche has lost his previous 11 games against Manchester City, which is, him versus Pep, Dyche versus Pep. Pep usually gets the upper hand, and with good reason, because of the squads that we have, whereas this game, do we have a slightly closer in terms of comparable squads and the available players that Manchester City have. I'm looking forward to seeing Haaland play in this game because I think it's about time he showed up and put in a big performance for this Manchester City side because we need him. He's been goalless in the last 3 home games. He has never gone 4 home games without a goal. So we need to get Haaland onto the score sheet against Everton on Boxing Day. I will be doing a watch-along as well, so come and join me for that. He has scored in his previous 3 games against Everton, Haaland has actually, so he's got a good record against them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Branthwaite versus Haaland. That's an area of the pitch that excites me. I think he bullied him a couple, it was like last season or the year before in the treble season. I can't remember which season it was, but there was a moment where Branthwaite got bullied by Haaland. But I think Branthwaite, by the way, is going to be a monstrous player for Everton. Going forward into the years, and a player that Manchester City should absolutely be looking at. I think we should have him as one of the main priorities to replace the likes of John Stones or either Akanji or Ake when the needs must for these players, because Branthwaite and Mark Gay from Crystal Palace, those 2 players in particular, English contingency, young up-and-coming centre-backs, we should be looking at players like this because he looks an absolute worldie of a player. But don't forget, Everton have taken points off Arsenal and Chelsea and kept clean sheets in the process with 2 0-0s, and I would argue Everton were unlucky to come away from that game with the 3 points against Chelsea because Sanchez was pulling off some major saves. Tosin putting in some vital blocks in the second half against Everton to keep the clean sheet for Chelsea rather. So Everton could have quite easily got the 3 points. So it's not all low blocks and parking the bus from Everton. It's not all about that. They have got an attacking threat that Manchester City needs to be mindful of. You would say the worst type of side we need to come up against right now. A solid defensive side that has a sting in their tail. The worst side we come up against right now is that type of side. You're just hoping Manchester City can turn a corner of some kind and get out of 7th place where we are right now. 4 points away from the top 4 spots. We need to close that gap, we really do. In terms of team news, City have got no Edison. Ake, who was on the bench versus Villa, confusingly on the bench against Aston Villa. I don't know why. Apparently he's still injured, but he makes the bench for Villa. Again, I'm baffled by that. I don't see the point in that whatsoever. Stones, Diaz, Nunes, Bob and Rodri are the other players that are all out for Manchester City. In terms of Everton, James Garner, Tim Arogbunam, Ashley Young, who is suspended, which will likely see Seamus Coleman coming into the right-back position for Everton. Dwight McNeil has been described as unlikely to feature, and Armando Broja is a small doubt. There's a slim chance he could make it, but probably not. Let's have a look at the start 11. I'm going to go with Everton first. Jordan Pickford, mate. He's an absolute knobhead, isn't he, mate? He's such a wind-up merchant. One of the most unenjoyable faces in football when he's on that pitch. It's almost comical, isn't it? Anytime he has to do any goalkeeping, he's just screaming at the world, isn't he? He hates everything that has a heartbeat if he has to do some goalkeeping. Anyway, he's going to be in the net for Everton. Tarkowski and Branthwaite in the middle for the 2 centre-backs. Seamus Coleman, the ageing Seamus Coleman, I think we should be looking at exposing him with the likes of Jeremy Doku. Mikhailenko at left-back. And then a midfield 3, a solid midfield 3. And this is the problem. This is the problem right here. It's going to be these 3. Decore and Mangala signed from Forest in the summer. That 3 midfield, I was talking to you about physical power in the midfield and exposing the likes of Seamus Coleman in the fullback position. We might not even get to test him because against Aston Villa, we didn't even test their defenders because we couldn't get past their midfield. We couldn't even get into dangerous positions, to test the back line against Aston Villa. And we've got a very similar midfield we're going up against in terms of physical power. Decore, Gay, Mangala. Good luck getting past them with Gundogan. And the tippy-tappy nature of Rico Lewis and Gundogan and Kovacic, it concerns me. It really does. No power in that midfield whatsoever. So, yeah, it could be a similar sort of afternoon against Everton. No Dwight McNeil, which I think is a good thing because he's scored a few times, I think, against Manchester City over the years. Calvert-Lewin will be their number 9. And they, on the left, with Jack Harrison on the right to maintain Everton's width. Manchester City, I'm going to go with Ortega, who, by the way, are we not that save he made in the first few minutes against Aston Villa? That's not been talked about enough for me. What a save that was! That was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Arguably save of the season so far. I think Martinez pulled off a save the other day, actually, where he hooked it back off the line that could probably beat it. But in terms of, from a Manchester City perspective, save of the season, Ortega, again, putting up saves like that to keep it at 0-0. It wasn't for long, but it still kept it at 0-0 during that moment. What a save that was. That wasn't spoken about enough, that, for me. In terms of the back line, I think we're going to have to see Simpson Pusey considering the injuries, so I think he's probably going to be thrown into the back line alongside Manuel Akanji, who you're hoping is fit. Rico Lewis, again, don't forget this has been done before the pre-match press conference with Pep Guardiola, so I do not know if any new names have been added to the medical room, but this is the most recent information I have to go off. So Rico Lewis in right back, and I think it'll be Josko Gvardiol on the left side of Manchester City's defence. In front of them in that midfield, very lacking in power, but I don't know what else to do, guys. I don't know what else to do. Going to go with Kovacic in the middle, Kevin De Bruyne to the right of him, and, actually, let's stick him to the left of him. And Phil Foden to the right of him. In the middle, Phil Foden this is. And I just want to see a little bit something different. Let's go for what people have been crying out for a lot this season. Savinho on the right, Doku on the left to try and test out Seamus Coleman to see how if his experience as a defender is going to get him through the 90 minutes, because I swear we saw that duo last season go head to head. We've seen it before, Doku versus Coleman, and Coleman struggled. He really struggled against Jeremy Doku, so no reason not to see it again. And Erling Haaland up top. With the ball, you'll probably see these two push forward. Kovacic push alongside Enrico Lewis, push into that midfield with a team system that looks a little bit like that with the ball. Prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 Manchester City. I do think we can win this game. It's going to be really difficult. I'm hoping for a Christmas miracle that Manchester City can pick up all 3 points, because that's what it is right now. Any 3 points, I'll take it. Any means necessary, I'll take it. What's your predictions? Get in the comments below. Don't forget to join me for the watch long, and have a merry, merry Christmas. Love from Typical City. All the best. Enjoy yourselves. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silver.